What if managing difficult emotions wasn't a constant brutal fight, but a skill you could actually learn and master? What if feelings like anxiety, frustration, or sadness weren't enemies to be defeated, but signals to be understood? For so many of us, our inner world feels like a battlefield. We're told to shake it off, stop being so sensitive, or just get over it. We spend so much energy trying to suppress, ignore, or fight our feelings, only to find ourselves exhausted and feeling like we're failing at the one thing we should be able to control: ourselves. The truth is, when we fly off the handle or freeze with indecision, it's our response to our emotions that's running the show. But what if there was a different way, a science-backed process designed not to eliminate your emotions, but to help you use them wisely? That's why we're breaking down the powerful guide from the book Dealing with Feeling by Dr. Mark Brackett, the founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. This isn't about chasing a constant state of happiness, which often depends on things we can't control. It's about building a deep and lasting sense of well-being and purpose. This is your guide to learning what might be the single most important skill a human can possess: emotion regulation. Before we get to the how, we have to bust a huge myth most of us were raised with: the idea that some emotions are good and others are bad. Dr. Brackett's entire philosophy is built on a game-changing idea. There are no bad emotions, only misunderstood ones. Feelings like anger, anxiety, and sadness aren't character flaws. They're vital sources of information. They're signals that grab our attention, influence our choices, and shape our relationships. When we label feelings as bad, we instinctively try to get rid of them. We suppress them, avoid them, numb them. But research from Yale and beyond shows this strategy is incredibly costly. It doesn't just fail, it actively harms us. Suppressing feelings can mess with our memory, cripple our decision-making, and stifle our creativity. It also takes a huge toll on our health, increasing our risk for anxiety, depression, and other problems. Think about it. A divorce rarely comes from healthy emotion regulation. It often happens because partners are so dysregulated, they can't talk about their feelings, so they create distance or work longer hours instead. This is why Dr. Brackett argues that emotion regulation isn't a fixed trait, but a skill that must be learned and practiced. It requires what he calls a growth mindset toward your emotions. Instead of judging them, you get curious and try to understand the message they're sending. His research shows that only about 10% of people feel they ever got a solid education in how to manage their feelings. The rest of us were left to figure it out on our own, often learning unhelpful habits like yelling, isolating, or blaming. But the good news is, because these are learned habits, they can be unlearned and replaced with strategies that actually work. This guide is your new education, built on Dr. Brackett's decades of research and his ruler framework: recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotions, that has been put to the test in thousands of schools. So how do we start learning this new skill? I've broken down Dr. Brackett's process into a clear step-by-step guide based on his core strategies for building emotional strength. I'm going to walk through each one, explaining the science and giving you practical tools you can start using today. The core idea is refreshingly simple. Effective emotion regulation comes down to your goals plus your strategies. First, you get clear on what you want to achieve with an emotion. For this, Dr. Brackett created the PRIME model, an acronym for prevent, reduce, initiate, maintain, or enhance. Then, you pick a strategy from an evidence-based toolkit to help you get there. This isn't a rigid one-size-fits-all prescription. It's about building your own personal playbook for emotional well-being. By the end of this, you'll have a clear process to follow anytime an intense emotion pops up, helping you move from being reactive to being strategic. Let's get to it. Step 1. Assess and shift your beliefs. The first step, and honestly the most important one, has nothing to do with breathing exercises or positive thinking. It starts with the hidden driver of all your emotional responses, your beliefs about emotions themselves. Most of us carry around unwritten, unconscious rules about feelings that we picked up from our family and culture. Rules like anger is dangerous, crying is weak, or I shouldn't feel jealous. These beliefs act as a filter, coloring how you react to every single feeling you have. If you believe anxiety is bad, your gut reaction is to fight it or feel ashamed of it. That resistance just creates a second layer of suffering. Now you're not just anxious. You're anxious about being anxious. The goal here is to challenge those unhelpful beliefs and adopt a more empowered mindset. The core belief to practice is this: all emotions have a purpose, and I can approach them with curiosity. This simple shift is transformative. It moves you from judgment to inquiry. Instead of, why am I so angry? I shouldn't be. You start asking, okay, I'm feeling anger. What is this trying to tell me? What boundary was crossed? Here's a quick exercise to start this shift. Take a moment with this statement. I allow myself to experience the full range of emotions, both pleasant and unpleasant, without shame or resistance. Write it down, say it out loud, or just sit with it. The point is to begin giving yourself what Dr. Brackett famously calls permission to feel. This doesn't mean you let your emotions run wild. It means you stop wasting energy fighting their existence and open yourself up to learning from them. That one act of acceptance is the foundation for everything that follows. Step 2. Recognize and label precisely. Once you've given yourself permission to feel, the next step is to figure out what exactly you're feeling. Too many of us live in a state of emotional chaos, using vague words like stressed, bad, or off. But as Dr. Brackett points out, are you stressed or are you anxious and overwhelmed? Those are very different feelings that need different solutions. The skill here is to move from chaos to clarity by labeling your emotions with precision. This isn't just a word game, it's a powerful brain hack. Research shows that putting a specific name to a feeling helps calm down the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, and engages the more rational thinking part of your brain. It creates a little space between you and the emotion, letting you observe it instead of being consumed by it. You start to see that you have a feeling. You are not the feeling. So how do you do this? It's a 3-part process. First, pause. Before you react, take a brief moment. Dr. Brackett calls this the meta moment, a quick reset that widens the gap between a trigger and your response. Second, scan. Check in with your body. Where is the feeling? Is your jaw tight? Shoulders tense? Knot in your stomach? Emotions are physical. Third, ask and name. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling this right now? To get better at this, expand your emotional vocabulary. You can't name what you don't have a word for. Dr. Brackett co-created the How We Feel app, which has a mood meter tool designed to help you pinpoint your feelings with more accuracy. For instance, instead of just angry, you might realize you're actually indignant, frustrated, or resentful. Each word tells a different story and points to a different solution. Labeling your emotions accurately is one of the most powerful things you can do to know yourself better and start taking control. Step 3, set a goal with Prime. Now that you've named your emotion, you're at a crossroads. What do you want to do with this feeling? This is where you stop being a passive victim of your emotions and become the architect of your emotional state. This is step 3, setting a clear, intentional goal. Dr. Brackett created a simple but powerful acronym for this, PRIME. It stands for 5 possible goals you can set for any emotion. Number 1, prevent. This is about looking ahead. If you know checking email right before bed makes you anxious, you can set a goal to prevent that feeling with a no email after 8 p.m. rule. This is proactive. Number 2, reduce. This is for when you're in the grip of an intense, unpleasant feeling. If you're seeing red in a disagreement, your goal isn't to solve the problem right then. It's to reduce the anger so you can think clearly and not say something you'll regret. Number 3, Initiate. Sometimes you need to gin up a feeling that isn't there. If you're feeling blah before a workout, your goal is to initiate some energy by cranking up a high-energy playlist. Number 4, maintain. This one's for the good times. When you feel a moment of peace, joy, or connection, you don't have to let it just slip away. You can set an intention to maintain it by savoring the moment or sharing the good news. Number 5, enhance. This is about taking a pleasant feeling and turning up the volume. If you feel a little flicker of pride after finishing a tough task, you can enhance it by taking a second to appreciate the effort you put in. Using the prime model is a game changer because it forces you to be strategic. It shifts the question from why do I feel this way to given that I feel this way, what's my goal? This simple step puts you back in the driver's seat. The emotion is no longer a random event. It's data you can use to make a conscious choice about where you want to go next. Step 4, calm your body and mind. You've identified your feeling and set your goal. But if that feeling is intense, if your heart is pounding and your mind is racing, you can't just think your way out of it. Your body's threat response is in overdrive. This is where step 4 comes in. You have to calm your body and mind. Think of it as your emotional first aid kit. The goal here is to deliberately activate your body's rest and digest system to counteract that fight or flight response. You need to do this before you try to reason your way through the problem. Dr. Brackett and other researchers have pinpointed a few simple evidence-based ways to do this. The first and most powerful tool is deep breathing, specifically with a longer exhale. When you're stressed, you take short, shallow breaths. To reverse that, you can practice what's known as a physiological sigh. A simple version: inhale through your nose for a count of 4, then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6 or more. That long exhale is the key. It sends a direct signal to your nervous system to slow down. This is your go-to when you feel like you're at an 8, 9, or 10 on the intensity scale. The second technique is grounding, which is great for when you feel overwhelmed. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method is a classic for a reason. It pulls you out of the storm in your head and back into the present moment. Just name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, for example, the texture of your chair, your clothes, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This sensory exercise forces your brain to focus on your immediate surroundings, breaking the anxiety feedback loop. A third strategy is mindfulness, or observing your emotion without judgment. Dr. Brackett uses the analogy of an emotion as a wave. You don't block the wave, suppression, or hold on to it, rumination. Your job is to just watch it rise, crest, and fall, knowing it will pass. Tell yourself, this is a feeling of anxiety. It's a temporary wave of energy in my body. It is not me, and it will pass. This act of non-judgmental observation robs the emotion of its power. These aren't complicated tricks. They're simple physiological resets that give you a little space between a trigger and your reaction so you can handle the moment with grace under pressure. Step 5. Redirect your thoughts. Once your body is calmer, you've got the mental space to work with the story you're telling yourself. Your inner voice shapes everything. The goal here isn't to lie to yourself or slap on some toxic positivity, but to consciously shift away from distorted thought patterns toward more constructive and compassionate ones. Dr. Brackett highlights a few powerful strategies for this. The first is positive self-talk. This means becoming your own supportive coach instead of your own worst critic. So many of us have a brutal inner critic who says things like, "You're such an idiot for making that mistake." Positive self-talk replaces that voice with something like, "You made a mistake. It happens. You can learn from this and move on." Interestingly, research shows this is even more effective when you use your own name, like, "Mark, take a breath, you've got this." This little trick helps you step back and offer yourself the same compassion you'd give a friend. The second strategy is cognitive reappraisal, or reframing. This is about choosing to see a situation through a new lens. It's the difference between thinking, This presentation is a disaster, and reframing it as, this is a challenging opportunity for me to practice and grow. A great question to ask is, what can I learn from this? Or, is there another way to look at this? This isn't denying difficulty. It's focusing on what's in your control. As Dr. Brackett says, his personal mantra is reframe instead of blame. The third strategy is distancing. This means reminding yourself that emotions and situations are temporary. Thoughts like, this feeling is temporary, or this is just a moment in time, it will pass, can cut through the sense of permanence that makes bad moments feel hopeless. But, and this is a big but, don't confuse this with rumination, getting stuck in a loop of analyzing what went wrong. Redirecting your thoughts is a brief strategic check-in designed to shift your perspective so you can take action. Step 6. Express and co-regulate. You don't have to manage your emotions in a vacuum. We are social creatures hardwired for connection. Step 6 is about skillfully using your relationships to help you regulate, a process called expression and co-regulation. First, let's talk about expression. After you've labeled your feeling and calmed down, you can choose to express it to someone. The key is to do it constructively, not with blame. This means using I statements. Instead of, you're making me so anxious, try, I'm feeling anxious and I could really use some reassurance right now. This communicates your need without attacking the other person, making it far more likely they'll respond with support, not defensiveness. This leads directly to co-regulation, which is basically helping each other manage emotions. It's what happens when a calm friend listens to your troubles, validating your feelings and helping you see things more clearly. Their calm presence can actually soothe your own nervous system. Building a network of supportive allies, friends, family, a therapist, is one of the most powerful things you can do for your long-term well-being. Dr. Brackett worries about the rise of social isolation, pointing out that a U.S. Surgeon General report found about half of adults feel lonely. This makes finding and nurturing these connections more important than ever. He suggests identifying your feelings mentors, people in your life who model healthy emotional regulation and who you can turn to for support. This skill is also critical in conflict. A couple can agree to take a 30-minute break to cool down before resolving an issue. That's co-regulation. Sharing your feelings wisely with the right people isn't weakness. It's a sign of strength. Step 7. Act and build habits. All this work sets the stage for the final crucial step, taking action and building sustainable habits. Emotion regulation isn't a one-time fix, it's a daily practice. Step 7 is about weaving these skills into your life so they become second nature, allowing you to become the person you actually want to be. This starts with taking care of your emotion regulation budget by consistently investing in sleep, good food, and exercise, all of which have a huge impact on your emotional resilience. To make these skills stick, Dr. Brackett recommends creating if-then plans. You proactively decide how you'll handle a trigger. For example, if I start to feel overwhelmed by my to-do list, then I will step away and take 5 deep breaths. This preloads your response so you're not scrambling in the heat of the moment. Another powerful tool is tracking and reflection. Use an emotion diary or the How We Feel app to log your feelings. Over time, you'll start to see patterns. Maybe you're always anxious on Sunday nights or irritable after certain meetings. That awareness is the first step toward addressing the root cause. Finally, celebrate your progress. Learning to regulate your emotions is hard work, especially if you're unlearning decades of old habits. Acknowledge the small wins. Every time you pause instead of reacting, every time you reframe a negative thought, you're strengthening a new neural pathway. Recognize that effort. This process isn't about perfection, it's about progress. By consistently practicing these steps, you are actively training your brain to navigate life with more wisdom and well-being. We've covered a lot, and turning this knowledge into a real-life skill takes practice. But the journey starts with a single step. This is a lifelong practice, a skill that will profoundly impact every corner of your life, your health, your relationships, and your sense of purpose. By embracing this process, you're not just learning to deal with your feelings. You're learning to use your emotions to create the life you truly want. You're learning to become the best version of yourself. So I have a question for you. Which of these steps resonated with you the most, and which one will you try to practice this week? Let me know in the comments below. Your journey might just inspire someone else to start theirs. And if you want more science-backed strategies for improving your life, make sure to subscribe. If you found this video helpful, watch this one about 10 psychological forces shaping your every decision.